Hi, welcome to lessonswithtroy.com. I'm Troy Brenningmeyer. Well, in this lesson, we're going to be going over the modes in open D tuning. Now, this is great for lap steel, tuned to open D, or Weissenborn, or Dobro, all tuned to open D, which from your lowest string, your thickest string, to your highest or thinnest string is going to be D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. Okay, so how I'm going to approach this is you're not actually going to see my instrument, but you can hear it. Okay, and all these modes that I show you, they have fancy names, but I'll be explaining the different sounds that you're going to be hearing from each mode. And we're going to start from the very basics of understanding what a mode is, and then I'll go through all these diagrams that I made, one for each mode, right? Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a different sound than just your standard major scale or pentatonic scale. And although each mode is actually a major scale just in a different key, when you keep the same root note and play over a different key, that's going to give you all these different sounds. So I know this is probably pretty fancy for a lot of people, or pretty complicated, but I'm going to really simplify it, and I think you'll really start hearing these differences of the modes. Okay, let's start from the top because we've got a lot to learn. Okay, normally when you're in a music class or something, they teach the modes in this way, where they keep them all in the same key, right? Now, for example, the key of C. We're not going to be learning the key of C in this lesson. We're going to be focusing on, every root note of D, basically. But in the key of C, this is a great example because there's no sharps or flats. Okay, you have all these fancy names for the modes. Okay, and all you're doing here is you're just taking, let's say, the key of C, for example, and one mode, the very first one, is called Ionian. That's just the key of C from C to C. But if you played the key of C, but instead of C to C, you played it from D to D, that gives you what's called a mode. Okay, that's the Dorian mode. Each interval of the scale, if you start with that note and you end on that note, but you keep in the same key, that gives you these modes. Okay, now this is how normally you would learn the modes in a class, in a theory class or something. And this is how I learned them in college, and reading theory books. You always understand the modes like this. But what this does is it doesn't really give you a usable way, at least with lap steel and lap style instruments that I found. It doesn't give you a usable way to really hear the mode, to hear the differences and the personalities of the modes. So what I've done here is, instead of thinking about them like this, which this is the order of the modes, once again, start on your first scale degree, that's Ionian. Your second scale degree, that's Dorian. Third scale degree is Phrygian. Fourth scale degree is Lydian. Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, right? Now, what I'm going to approach this lesson is we're going to do all of these where you keep the root note the same, basically. So all of these modes are going to have a D root. And what you end up getting is, in red here, this is what you're going to end up hearing the difference of. Now, I've got my lap steel plugged in here. Let me show you an example. The Ionian mode, which is just a D major scale, right? These are the modes. This is my formula chart for the modes. Okay, with the root note being a D. Okay, so D Ionian versus, let's say, D Lydian. Okay, notice how there's no change there. It's just a D major scale. Let me play this for a little bit and show you an example. Okay, I'm just doing that low. This is perfect for lap steel because you have all these Ds that you can use, and let them drone out, which means let them ring out, while on your first string you're just going to go up the scale. For example, here's what I just played. I let these low strings ring out, and this Ionian mode, I just played D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, which is just a D major scale, right? D to D in the key of D. So if you think about the modes this way, where you have you think about them as you're just going to change certain notes of that scale to give you a different sound. Let me show you what a Lydian mode would sound like. The difference, let's go back to our formula chart, between a Lydian mode and an Ionian mode is just one note. We're sharpening the fourth note of our scale, of a D major scale. Okay, so basically if you take D major scale as your basis, right? That's your foundation. And see how I have in red here, these are the alterations to that scale that's going to give you the sound of this mode. Okay, it's a little bit more deeper of thinking of the modes than this way, where you just stay right within the same key and you just think of the mode as different starting points within that key. Okay, this way you're really going to hear the difference of each mode, and the difference is in red here. Those are the notes that's changed from this major scale, this D major scale. So let's play this Lydian now. Now this is just changing one note of the scale, right? Where we're sharpening the sharp 4, that means we're sharpening the fourth note of that scale. So if we go up here to the D major scale, that's D's 1, E's 2, F sharp is 3, G is 4. Now notice the difference here between Ionian and Lydian, where on the Lydian here, notice how that's a G sharp. Well, that's the fourth note of our scale, and I've sharped it. Okay, fourth note of this is where we're comparing it to. We're comparing it to just a straight D major scale. That's where all of these changes are happening. All of these changes are in relation to the Ionian mode, which is your major, just regular D major scale. Okay, so let me play this Lydian and show you the example. Basically, all I'm doing is instead of playing a G natural, I'm going to be playing a G sharp. I'm letting my my low strings ring out, and I'm going to be playing the scale on my first string. D, E, F sharp. Now, do you hear that? That's that sharp 4. That sharp 4 gives you this sound of a Lydian sound. Okay, let me play this again, and you're really going to hear the difference now in this Lydian mode versus the Ionian mode. Here we go. Oop. So the note that the sharp 4, this defines that mode. Okay, there's Lydian. Let me play the major scale, the Ionian mode again. Notice how that's just a major scale. Root, second, third, fourth. Okay, that's the sound of that mode. Now, the difference, and this is just an example so you can really hear the difference in a mode. Now, let me play Lydian again. Listen for that fourth note. 1, 2, 3, sharp 4. Okay, so what we've done then, or what I've done is I've made these charts, right? These diagrams for each mode. Okay, so this is the Ionian mode. This is just a D major scale. This is what you've learned in the key of D, right? Just your straight D major scale where you have an F sharp and a C sharp. Okay, so as you want to look through these diagrams, here's how you can understand them. Starting at the top, it tells you what mode this diagram represents. This is the Ionian mode. if we look at our very first, or this chart, D Ionian. Now down here, I forgot to mention this. This is the sound of each mode, basically. This sounds major. This is a sounds minor, sounds minor. Basically, just like a major scale, right? How your 1, 4, and 5 chords are major. Well, in modes, your 1, 4, and 5, as far as the scale degrees of those modes go, those are major sounding modes, where your 2, 3, and 6 modes are going to be minor sounding, and that 7th mode, the Locrian, has that flat 5 in it, along with a flat 3, flat 7. That's a diminished sound, okay? So I like to break these modes up into your major or happy sounding modes, and your minor or sad sounding modes, and then the diminished, which is, kind of a crazy sounding mode with that flat 5. Okay, so let's go back here now. Okay, so Ionian, D major, D to D, key of D. So right here, this is just all your notes in that mode or that key, the key of D. So you have an F sharp and a C sharp in that key. And then down here, I've written it out as far as the root 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, right? Root, nothing's changed on the Ionian mode. Now let's go to the one I just played, that Lydian mode. Okay. Now, if you notice, tells our mode right up here. And then you go down here, you see root, 2nd, 3rd, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, root. Okay, it's a major scale with a sharp 4. Now, when you do that, you put these notes in up here, F, C, G, right? If you have your keys memorized, you know if that's the key of A. So we're playing D to D, or thinking of it as D to D in the key of A. But what we want to do as lap steel players, we want to get those low strings ringing out as a drone so we can really hear D as our root, right? And that G sharp note right there, that's our sharp 4. That's the defining note of this mode, of the Lydian mode. So why are all these modes important? As you can tell, you can start noodling. You can play any of these notes that I've written out here, and you can look down here on this chart and see what intervals you're playing in relation to the mode there. And you can start really noodling. You can start writing your own music. You can start coming up with different sounds now with using the modes and really hearing the differences of these modes. So it's really going to help your ear to hear these alterations. Okay, that being said, so let's focus right now on our major modes. We've done Ionian, that's just a straight D major scale, right? Always keep that low string ringing out, your 6th, right? Your D strings, 6 and 4 if you can. While you're playing them, just on the first string for right now. But as you get these modes down and the deeper you want to get into them, you can use any of these notes that's written as you're playing these modes. So we did Ionian, that's just straight D major. We did Lydian, that's a sharp 4 sound, right? Let me play that again.